Please welcome to the show, of course, the founder of Rose Media Digital Marketing. He's a sports anchor, co-host of I Love You, But You're an Idiot podcast, 4-time Emmy winner. Also went to war with Barstool. And I'm putting that up there, Justin, as well. Mr. Justin Rose. Justin, hi. How you doing today?
Well, after that introduction, I'm fantastic. How are you guys doing today? I thought this was a party.
Yeah, you know what? That's how we want it to feel, Justin. We appreciate you for joining. I was going to throw in there, he can cook a little as well. Is that fair?
That's right. You can Cooking with an Idiot.
All right, there you go.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Justin, we're talking about DJ Reader, and I know, you spend time, obviously you're on TV, but I want to ask you I haven't had a chance to hear you. Your thoughts on just kind of this free agency, how Brad's approached it. I've seen both opinions. I've appreciated how Brad's approached it. I've also talked to people that absolutely hate it. Where are you at with kind of the approach, DJ Reader, Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson, not getting Danielle Hunter? Where are you at with this free agency?
Honestly, I don't hate it. And I know that like maybe he didn't get the big name, or there's a couple of guys they didn't bring in for a little bit of an extra look at and those types of things. But listen, if you go back in time, I know you guys are a few years younger than me, but there was a time that the Lions, based on name alone, tried to draft, tried to go in free agency, tried to do things to just get the hot name, right? And how did that work out for them?
Right. Yeah.
Miserable. I mean, 0-16 season because they went after Joey Harrington because he was the name, right? Hard to argue, right? So especially in free agency now, I feel like a lot of these players, they just want to get paid. And you guys were talking about taking less to win a Super Bowl. Guys, are you serious? Nobody who's a professional athlete who has a short window of 1 to 7, if you're lucky, you get to 10. I mean, you're talking about making life-changing money. And if somebody's going to offer you X amount of dollars and somebody's going to offer you 3% of that, you're going to go because we're going to be a great team. Come on.
That's fair. It's fair.
No, go ahead, Boone.
No, I think that's a fair point, because that was going to lead to my next question too. This is the Jared Goff conversation, and it's been blowing up today as well on social media. Is paying and extending Jared Goff $50 million in the money, and a lot of people are asking him to take these team-friendly deals. And I wanted to see kind of where you stood on when it comes to the Jared Goff and these contracts extensions, because to your point, realistically, it's some of these guys, especially with extensions. Are they going to take less money to win the Super Bowl? Or are they going to say, hey, this is my last contract in the NFL. Should I take the money and kind of run with it? Where do you stand on that when you see all this Jared Goff stuff as well?
So when it comes to Goff, it's a really interesting thing, because here's my question. So the Lions don't want to pay him $50 million and they let him walk. Who's paying him $50 million?
Yeah.
Is anybody going to pay him $50 million? So you do have a little bit of a bargaining chip. Now, that's not to say, hey, Jared, we love you, take a discount. They're going to compensate the guy, not maybe to the top of the market, but it also seems like everybody's getting the top of the market, right? Even if they're not that good. So It'll be really interesting. I can see it going both ways, to be honest with you. I don't have a firm belief that they should pay him. I don't have a firm belief that they shouldn't pay him. I think he's found happiness here. I know that he and his fiance really like living here. They like this. Like, that's part of it too. When you're a franchise quarterback, it's different than a Reader type guy who's a rental player by all means. Jared Goff is the starting quarterback of this franchise, and he's in the community. He's building roots here, way different than some free agent who's going to come and fill a hole for 2 or 3 years. So that's another part of the investment you have to think about. Is this guy a champion for your franchise? Is he the Matthew Stafford 2.0, where you build around this guy, the face of the franchise? Who's the face of the franchise right now?
Goff. Yep.
Jared Goff.
It's one of those things where, yeah, Jared, you can leave. Who's going to pay you? Who's going to give you the opportunity? You're already, how old is he now? 30?
28.
Close to 30. Yep.
Close to 30. I mean, This is going to be his last contract. So it's like, okay, well, I can play my best football here, where they've unlocked something in me that I haven't found since I kind of had a miracle run with LA. He was dead. He was left for nothing, right? He was thrown in as a complimentary, package of pretzels on the plane in that deal. He the first round picks were the deal. Jared Goff was like, oh, cool, like whatever, we'll figure it out. He's reinvented himself here. So there's a difference between, I guess, loyalty and chasing the bag, right? And I think Jared Goff is one of those guys where loyalty matters to him, especially now that he's rejuvenated himself. I don't think he's that cocky, arrogant guy who goes, well, I can go anywhere and win. I think he knows that this is the best system for him. This is the best offensive coordinator. This is the franchise that believed in him when nobody else did. That's the type of stuff where you can say, hey, Jared, how about we backload your deal for an extra $20 million in 5 years from now? And so we're only paying you X amount of dollars up front. That's a friendly deal to keep a guy around and say, this is what we believe. We believe in you for 5 years. We're going to pay you all this extra money at the end of this contract because that's how much we believe in you. Bargaining chip. So it'll be interesting to see. I can see it going both ways, but quite frankly, I think that he'll get it done and he'll stay here and he will not be for very long the highest paid quarterback in the NFL because somebody else will be paid right.
Yep.
I love that. Spot on.
Parched. I don't have a giant fishbowl of blue KoolAid to pretend to drink like Booner. Hey, I wanted to ask you, dude. When did that start? Whose idea was that? Just something you've always wanted to do? Do you have some like fetish with that from high school or something?
So there's no fetishes. I did think of it before the season. I knew I had to do, I wanted to do something this year. I knew it was going to be a big year. So I have to do something. And I think I texted some of the guys before the season. I said, I have this idea to drink KoolAid after every single win. And they're like, you have to, if you do it, you have to do it after every win. And after the first week, it blew up. And the rest is history. It was like, hey, you have to do this every week.
Dude,
so
this is your case. That's awesome. You're a case example of this is what all the young creators that are watching this right now, all the YouTube stars, all the people that want to try to make it in the digital world. That is the only thing I know about Booner. And I'm being honest. Like the thing is you created something that was compelling. It captivated an audience. You had people that were listening to your stuff. Anyways, I'm not maybe one of them, but at the same time, I know you because you did something really creative and cool and outside the box on social media, and you became a fan favorite for a lot of Detroit Lions fans during a special year. So kudos to you for figuring that out, and I'll do my homework on you next time. Is that fair?
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Yeah,
hell yeah, bro.
Awesome. I will say this too. First time I ever, after the season, went out downtown Detroit, I had a little kid come up to me. It was a crazy moment for me because this is my first year doing this stuff. Little kid was like, hey, is this you? And pulled up Amon-Ra St. Brown's Instagram. And I was like, yep, that's me.
Yep. He went home with
guy.
mom after. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which one?
Yep. Oh, shit. Lucas, what do you got?
Yeah, Justin. Appreciate you coming on. So we're gonna switch gears a little bit over from Booner's fetishes, but some Lions fan fetishes. We've entered the month of Brad. April, the draft is in a couple weeks. If you had to nail one guy down, where if you're like closing your eyes, you just got to guess who Brad Holmes is picking at 29, or if he moves up, what do you think Brad Holmes does in the first round?
Dude, it is so early to be talking draft talk. You guys are nuts. I love you guys.
Oh, we got Justin. That's all we got.
I'll put it this way. I don't have a name because look, at 29, you might as well have 12 names and they could all be gone or all be available. Like you have no idea. This is going to be one of those typical drafts where you're going to have to really see if Brad Holmes' first round talent grades actually matter, right? So think about his track record here. How high has he picked? Penei Sewell. Okay, no doubt about her, right? Didn't have to do any thinking on that one. Aiden Hutchinson. No doubt about her, right? There was a little bit of questions about him before, but like his evaluation talent proved to be correct. But you're talking about one of the top 5 players where the gap between those and 6 through 30 are significant, right? So this will be a true test because he's nailed second round picks as we've seen over the past couple of years. He's really hit on some nice third round picks as well. And even in the 4th and 5th round has gotten quality backup and depth. But 29 is an interesting because it's kind of a second round pick. So he might reach, right? If he says, I only have this 29th pick, and I know that the guy that I want would probably go at 39, but we don't pick again until what, 45 or whatever it is, 50?
61, I think.
61. So if my guy that I pegged, and we've seen him do this, we've seen him reach a little bit for guys, right? 39. I think Amon-Ra was one of those guys, right? He was a little bit of a reach at wide receiver. So that'll be the interesting thing to see because he knows that he's got that pick and then he's had a long wait till he picks again. He just might go with the guy that they say, hey, he's a second round grade, but this is the guy that we want. So I don't know, but I also think you guys have said it. This is me beating. I'm not inventing anything cool here. Cornerback and defensive line help. So we don't have to spend a lot of time on that because everybody knows that that's the deal.
Yeah, and Justin, thanks again for joining us. I kind of wanted to ask you, there's been a lot of speculation with the kicker for the Michigan Panthers or whatever, and Dan Campbell and his play calling, some of it being risky and whatnot. Do you think Dan Campbell is going to be that way forever, or do you think he just doesn't trust his kicker? Do you think he finally evolves and kind of comes away from that niche of all the risky play calling? I kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
Ooh, man, that is a really interesting question, because I think the analytics in football as a whole are shifting away from kicking anyways.
Yeah.
So I think that Dan Campbell and like how their offense is running is kind of ahead of the curve, right? The analytics have changed the game of football in so many different ways, and we still haven't even really tapped like the potential of it, really. So when you think about it from an offensive standpoint, going for it on fourth down instead of punting, sometimes it's a 40-60 chance. And I know that the NFL is razor thin in those matters, but more teams are shifting towards, you know what, it's not that bad of a place. The analytics will tell you different. Sometimes it's more 50-50. So I think that it's not going to necessarily change him. I don't think he's afraid of kicking field goals. I just think that they're all, the players talked about it. We trust our offense to go out and get first downs when we need them to. And that was a mantra that they carried all the way literally until the last game of the season. So I don't think he's going to change. And like, why would you? Yeah, you're not going to hit on it every single time, every year. But I'd rather be more aggressive than having some guy who doesn't even go out there attempt a 55-yarder in the wind in Chicago. Like, right. Well, that's less than the 40% that you would get if you punt it or if you go for it and you have to try to stop them. So,
yeah, and Justin, it's interesting because you see Colin Cowherd come out and say like reckless has never, held a trophy. Where are you at with that style of coaching? I mean, you mentioned it, but in terms of, we talk about their window being open. You got three things that are important, right? GM, head coach, quarterback. They got all three at this point. Do you think that Dan's style could eventually hinder him, or you think there's no concern there and the Lions will be just fine with that type of coaching? Where are you at with that?
You got to zoom out. I know that you guys are in a little bit of a different industry because you guys are like the shock, like not right. That you're saying anything completely shock, but you're talking about like these hypotheticals that are like right now. My hypotheticals are from 30,000 feet. So I look at this as like a total zoom out, right? Like, so next year, say the Lions go 8-9. And they fall back to the mean. And in 4 of those games, a fourth down call doesn't work out for the offense and it goes the other way and the other team wins the game. Okay. So now you're 8-9 and you guys are going to go, oh, his decision making totally caught up to him. He's never going to be a good coach in the NFL because he's reckless. Okay. And then the year they come back and they go 12-5. And in 6 games, they went for it and got it at least once in fourth down. He's the greatest coach of all time. Put this guy in the Hall of Fame. His coaching is incredible. Again, so you guys got to go into this next season understanding that the Lions' luck factor last year on hitting on those fourth down plays and that reckless behavior was the favorable outcome of it, right? So to your point, Jeff, you're asking me if I'm concerned about it. Right now, maybe, yeah. But in the long term, no, because the law of averages is going to eventually, if he keeps on doing it at the level he can be,
yeah,
I'm not going to argue it. And so that's where it's like every year is so different in the NFL. It's so hard to do things repetitively. And if you guys are talking about the window, the Lions aren't building for a window. The Lions are building for long-term success. And I think that's something that a lot of fans gloss over when they hear those terms because they're like, well the window is going to close. And it's like, but not if we continue to build it in a way where in 5 years from now, we're still competing. How did the Steelers become the Steelers? Not because they were going out and getting all these free agents or doing all this stuff. I covered the Steelers for 2 years from 2014 to 2014 before I moved back to Detroit. And the way that organization, that is the staple of the NFL to this day still, even though they've come on some harder times. Their harder times are barely missing the playoffs.
Right.
So if the harder times are a consecutive run under Mike Tomlin where they've never had a losing season, but they missed the playoffs because they went 500 or a game over and missed out, that's what you want, right? You want the Lions to win, but you want the Lions to win a lot for a long time. So you can't just burn the bridges now and go out and give away all your draft picks and get the hot name and spend all your money in free agency because the window is here. If you're trying to do it where the Lions are looking 30,000 feet out and they're looking and going, this still may take a while.
Yeah.
You're speaking my language right now. Honestly, I've been preaching that about the next 6 years here for the Detroit Lions for the last like 6 months. Next kind of follow up with that then, Justin, I just want to throw this out there. I want to kind of see where you're at. Do you think kind of what Jared and Dan Campbell's building right now with Jared Goff and this kind of offense, do you think this is a Super Bowl roster for the next 2 or 3 years? Like, do you truly think like there will be a Lombardi trophy and a Super Bowl parade down Woodward in the next 2 or 3 years for the Detroit Lions?
I think it's absolutely possible. Do I think it's going to happen? Yes, but I'm also not putting money on it. Like the thing is you guys got to understand, like the NFL, like Dan and Brad are telling the fans exactly what they feel. Like they're not lying when they say, we know we have to work harder next year than we did this year. We know that our target is now on our backs, and all the other pros are looking at us going, why are they the ones? Like, It's different when you become the hunted instead of the hunter. I talked to Tom Izzo about this for 7 years when I would talk to him pre-season and stuff. Somebody would always like say, well, what's it feel like to be the hunted? And he's like, oh, I've been getting hunted for 20 years. And that's why we don't always sustain this level of success, because it's hard to do. And it's the same thing with the Lions. I mean, every NFL team is built to go 500, and there's 4 games for each team. You either win them or you lose them. Now, there are the also-rans, the 2 or 3 teams you know are going to be awful and they'll only win 3 or 4 games. And you know there's like 2 or 3 teams that are going to go 14-3, 15-2. They're the best team. Then you got everybody kind of in the middle. I mean, 4 games is the difference between 12-8 and 4-12. You're talking about like the worst team on the planet, right? No, it's you were that many plays away. So it's just the parity is so much. So it's like when you ask about like Jared Goff and how they're like, it's like they know that they have to have the leadership that needs to come back. And I think Jared Goff's that. I think Amon-Ra is that. I think that the defensive players are that. They're trying to add the right culture pieces. That's another part of this thing too. So the free agents that they brought in, hopefully those are the guys that are going to, fall in line pretty quickly to this whole idea of like working harder than the guy next to you. So I do think that they can win a Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 years, but I'm not going to sit here and say they will, because it's so hard to do.
Mm-hmm. And Justin, I think a big part of that is the player development. We've already seen a great deal of that with the Lions. Do you think there's going to be a player in next season that breaks out that has not already for the Detroit Lions?
Oh.
Or maybe more so they take that next step?
Might be a white guy from Iowa. Not sure.
Yeah. Well, you're going to need Jack Campbell to take a step forward for sure. I think it's kind of a cop-out of an answer, but I think it is really important. I think it's Jameson Williams. Like, this is the guy that like you need to have the breakout year. You need to put it all together. And I think this is basically his last chance, as far as like they could understand the rookie problems, but then you get hurt. Then you do some off the field stuff. So that's another kind of and then you come back and you're dropping footballs, and it's like, Jameson, you have all the talent in the world. Put it together for the love of God. Like, he's the guy that I think that if he can have that breakout season, them losing Josh Reynolds, like, 4 targets for our guy, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you want to get the ball to your playmakers. They believe that he can take that step to be a playmaker. And he doesn't have to be the number 3 option in Detroit. He should be the number 1 option in Detroit. Amon-Ra should be the number 2. Amon-Ra is Golden Tate 2.0, right? I mean, Golden Tate had a pretty hell of a career, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think that's the type of guy that if Amon-Ra can be that instead of this, he's a Terry Lockett. He's the guy that you go, oh yeah, Terry Lockett. I drafted him in the first round of my draft because he catches 11 balls a game for 185 yards, and every now and then I'll pop off for 1 or 2 tutties. That's Amon-Ra, right? But he's not. Terry Lockett's not the number 1. It's DK Metcalf. Yeah. Like, that's what you're trying to get out of Jameson Williams, and that's why he, to me, is the biggest step forward. Because if he can prove he's the guy, watch out. Like, this offense can be really deadly.
Yeah. And before we get to number 1, thank you. But before we get you out of here, I do want to ask. We have a member question.
Wait, you're kicking me off?
Well, I'm trying to
what are we doing?
Bro, I don't got nowhere to go. I got nowhere to go. I still got a little bit of wine left. Let's kick it. I'll go get a refill.
I'm trying to be respectful. I don't want. We typically do this where interviews last long. I'm like, I feel bad. I'm taking up these people's time.
Heck no, dude. I got nothing going on.
Let's go. All right. ETN asks. He says, top 5 teams into the league heading into this year. Who's your top 5?
Well, I think the Ravens are going to be number 1. I think the Ravens are easily. They got better, and Derrick Henry, while he's older, still has a lot to prove. And I think, but come on, guys, you want to talk about an unfair football team? Think about trying to stop Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in that offensive line.
It's tough.
In the read option.
Yeah. With no hip drop. The hip drop banned now. Hip drop is banned now.
So yeah, exactly. So you're going to be getting extra 15s on every other play. I mean, that team to me is by, if they don't win a Super Bowl next year, that is a drastic failure.
Yeah.
Number 2, how do you say not the Chiefs? I mean, it's like I don't want to, but like, well, all right, I want to look like an ass and pick them not in the top 3. Then it gets really interesting because, like, I feel like the Lions are in the 3 to 5 range. I think they're one of the top 5 teams. And then Philly, obviously, they're good. They're getting better. They went out in the offseason and did some things. So that's 4. I don't know. You know who I think my surprise team is?
Who's that?
I think it's going to be the Chargers.
Really?
I think Jim Harbaugh is going to
man.
do better than people think that he does in his first year. He's a different guy than when he left the NFL the last time. And I got to cover him his entire career up until last year or whenever I left local news. But I got to cover him, and the way he changed from the opening press conference, he never really changed his personality, which is obviously quirky and weird and but the way that he treated other people and assistants in the building and the things that he rubbed the wrong way in San Francisco that everyone warned us about, his sarcasm and his attitude and his, disregard for the media and different things like that. We were warned that this is what you're getting. And over the years, he softened up and he became, I mean, I sat with him at dinners. Like he's a guy that's like, he would probably never have sat with a guy at a charity dinner that was in the media before. Like it was a rare thing for him to do. And so him winning this title and restoring Michigan, and then obviously it's screwed, but good job. You won a natty. It's really interesting to see him get back into an NFL locker room and see if he can kind of use that Harbaugh rah-rah that he had in college, because typically that gets zoned out in the NFL. But everyone watched him at Michigan. He was on the biggest college platform. And then when he's winning and he's beating Ohio State, and he's going to the playoff and he's winning national championships, those guys were in college when he did it. Think about the timing of this. We're not talking about 45-year-olds that are like, well, days of Charles Woodson. It's like, no, these guys watched Michigan win a national championship at another college. Now they're playing for the guy that got them to win a title. Let's go. I'm in on this. Like, there's, you know what I mean? Like, I think he'll get the right guys, and I think he'll build it in this newfound image that he thinks can work in the NFL again. And we'll see. It'll be fantastic theater. Because he'll get killed. He'll get killed in LA if they stay. He'll get murdered. I mean, he will be. You thought a free press was bad. My God, he's going to get slaughtered out there.
Well, I think Jim is, I would say he's a top 6-7 coach right now in the NFL. Without even just be based off his resume and based off who he is. That's how I agree.
It's going to be, like I said, I think it's going to be super interesting. And I don't mean to go on this. We're getting off the NFL topic too much into college, but like it's also the people around you, like his assistants and like all of his staff. They have to fall in line with this idea that Jim Harbaugh has, and it's the team, all the cliches, all the nursery rhymes. He believes that's why they win football. Like he believes that's why they win football games. And it's not just like some hokey thing that he turns on and then when the cameras turn off, he's like, oh, okay, whatever. No, that dude is the same person, and he believes his shit in his shit is the only way to win. And he's gonna do it that way. And it's gonna be really fascinating to see if everybody on down the line can get in line with it. It's so crazy. But he can coach, right? He can
absolutely.
Hell yeah.
He's a football
and I see
guy,
this,
man.
we got a fellow Spartan, Mr. John Macaroon in the chat. He just said this is question for you. My question for Justin is Tom Izzo washed up? Has the game passed him by? Who else better to ask, Justin? What are your thoughts on Izzo?
It's funny. I just saw John the other day, and he didn't have the gall to ask me this to my face. he had to put me on a live stream to get this out of me, huh?
I'm interested in this one. I'm interested.
Yeah, you got some Michigan men on the show here.
So let me tell you a story about in 2015 when they made that kind of Cinderella-y run to the Final Four in Indianapolis. I covered that team when they started in Charlotte. I drove through the night to Charlotte, covered the game, stayed like the night, stayed through the weekend, drove home, drove through Niagara Falls over to Syracuse to watch them beat Louisville in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four. And that was Travis Trice's season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and Denzel Valentine's junior year. And Tom Izzo got to the Final Four, and they got their asses on the national stage in the summer. Many of it wasn't even close. I mean, they had, I forget what team he played, but they had 3 or 4 5-star kids, and like the whole bench was 4-star kids, and it wasn't even Travis Trice is your, 2-star shooting guard. He's your best option. And he said afterwards, I'm going to go and I'm going to get better players. I'm going to recruit more talented stars, and I'm going to do it that way. And what did he do? He went out and started doing it. He got Miles Bridges. He's got Jaren Jackson. He got Gary Harris. He's got, 3 or 4 guys that were highly touted kids and whatnot. And now he's got to do it again. He's got to say, what I was doing wasn't working. Gotta try to move on the best I can. He hates the transfer portal. He hates kids that quit. He hates that everybody's a bag man now. He didn't play those games, guys. You guys got to go back in time and you got to look at. Tom Izzo has been in all sorts of these court documents about the cheating that went on in Kentucky and at Kansas and at all the big Dukes and all of North Carolina. And every single doc that comes out said Tom Izzo wouldn't pay the money. I mean, he's proven it time and time again that he was so against recruiting players in that way that now he can do it. And wouldn't you feel guilty about that too? Wouldn't that take you an adjustment period to say, I could have been doing this for my entire career? And now 27 years into it, you're telling me now it's allowed? I mean, old dogs don't learn new tricks overnight, right? Yeah. Like, and I think that's the context that's so forgotten about Tom Izzo is he's going, but I was the angel. Why do all the cheaters now get to cheat out of the open? And all the deep pockets get and the kids can just chase the money. Would it surprise me if Xavier Booker decided to go to Kentucky because they offered him $1 million? No. Yeah. He's an 18-year-old kid who's going to make $1 million to go play basketball at a different school. What loyalty does he have to Michigan State? And that's what kills Tom Izzo. He's like, I could spend 4 years watching this kid and playing diapers to get to Michigan State as a freshman, and he pops off and then he leaves me because somebody offered him more money. Like the game has changed so much. Recruiting, you don't even have to recruit high school kids anymore. You can just recruit other schools and build a squad. And so Izzo's just having a hard. So does that give you guys did you put yourself in his shoes a little bit there? Like understand, gosh, I can't just pick up the phone and say, all right, I need Matt Ishku. Give me $20 million. I'm going to go spend 5 on these 4 players, and I'm going to get them to come to East Lansing. We're going to win an Natty next year. He should do that.
do you think he does that this offseason? Do you think he's like all right,
I don't think he goes that big.
Transfer portal, let's hit it?
He's already said he's expressed interest in going into the portal and being more active. But wait, Travis Trice or not Travis Trice? Guy that just graduated. Why is the name slipping me? It's the line. Their leading scorer this year, Tyson Walker.
Oh, yeah.
So Tyson Walker was a transfer, right? He came in.
Hell of a player.
Yeah, hell of a player. He got him from a D2 school. So it's like, okay, well, can you go do that again? Because he's not totally against it, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't think he's washed though. I think he's got enough in the tank to see this through at least to 2027 when the Final Four is in Detroit. I think that would be his last year. So I think he's building towards on that moment and building it now with like the juniors and freshmen that he has right now.
Yeah, I tend to. I mean, you see the comments right from Nick Saban. He sits down in an interview and he's like, "Man, I can't wrap my head about NIL." Like you sit down with players after the season and they ask, "Am I starting? How much am I getting paid?" Like in that, I can't imagine for someone like Tom Izzo in that kind of class of legendary coaches where you're just like, man, fuck this. Like I can't.
All right, y'all have grandparents, right?
Yes.
Do you ever walk in there and they say like, what are those things in your ears? Like you listen to music through that? I would never. Like it's literally they're like, but this is great, and they're like, it's not for me. So it's hard to like. And so if you stuck these in your grandpa's ear, he'd probably swat you. Not over that stuff. I don't want that. It's too loud. So it's like that humanizes it for what you were just saying, because it's like, and of course Saban's catching all this flack. Well, you got paid and you got all this money. It's like that's the way the system was. The boss gets the most money. Now we're in this. Everybody gets hey, by the way, you're gonna tap my tip button at the end of the night, so I'll put that up there for you. You guys can all tip me for coming on your show, because that's what everybody thinks they should make money off of, just showing up.
Yeah.
What value are you bringing if you're just showing up? Like, so it's very interesting. But I like I said, I think 2027s will be his last year, win or lose.
Awesome. Justin, we got to get you on more often, man. I mean, I don't know. You got plenty of wine. You got
100%.
time, right? So we got
whenever. You guys let me know.
All right.
Perfect.
Let's do it, man.
Drink wine.
There you go. Justin Rose, like I said, survived the war with Barstool on Twitter.
Oh, survived. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know what I just did, but I think I can do like.
There you go. All right, Justin. We'll talk to you soon, man. I appreciate you a ton.
All right, appreciate it, Justin.
Appreciate you.
There you go, Mr. Justin Rose.